I'm Michelle Dwyer and I'm the environmental team lead looking after the Fonterra sites at Fonterra and at Kapuni. We've got the lactose plant. And my role is to look after the environmental side of the business, manage all our resource consents we have with the Taranaki Regional Council, and just manage all the sides of the business that have to do with the environment and the community, such as our water abstraction and our wastewater and any way we impact on the community really and the environment around us.
Yeah, my name is Murray van Maas and I'm the Central Environmental Manager, so I cover a number of Fonterra's manufacturing sites from the Bay of Plenty through the Manawatu and into Taranaki, and my role is really to liaise with third-party stakeholders, so to take the jargon out of it, that's sort of district and regional council level in terms of planning and so on, and also to assist the sites in terms of their environmental compliance, sustainability projects, any new initiatives that they're looking at, and really to promote sustainable management practices within the business. So Fonterra has many global statements around sustainability and around sustainable production of milk, sustainable manufacturing processes, sustainable energy and water use, and really we have a commitment right throughout the business to look at ways of doing things better and looking at sustainable ways of doing things. So that's not just in terms of the environment, that's financially as well as taking into the effect that our business has for local communities.
For the business, sustainability is about ethically doing the right thing by your community and your environment, but at the same time, if you're not running a sustainable business, your business is going to not last. It makes good business sense to be sustainable. We want to still be running this business or be involved in this business, 20, 30, 40 years down the track. So you have to look long term and you have to look sustainable. Yeah. And I guess on a personal view too, living in the area where I work, I've got a lot invested in it, and I care about the environment, and I live here and I want to make it better. Some of the things we do here, particularly at Fonterra, is we have what we call an eco-efficiency program. So we've got a constant drive to reduce our waste output from the site. So we do that by doing a lot of recycling, and which we try to recycle obviously as much as possible. We can all our plastics and our metals and our glass, and minimise our waste to landfill. We've got a program of riparian planting that we do around the farms that Fonterra owns around the site, particularly around the waterways. We like to get the riparian planting in there. It's our policy, and we've done a lot of work around here with that to protect the waterways and just to enhance the natural area. We've got one just down the road actually. We own part of Knowles Lakes. I don't know if you've heard of them. And over the last few years there's been a lot of work done in there, planting native trees, putting in walkways, and it's actually open to the public to go in and enjoy that. And Fonterra has been working in partnership with the local Rotary chapter on that, and we've got a lot of the local primary schools involved in that as well. And so they'll come in and we will supply the trees and they'll supply the children to plant them, and they come back and do nature studies and have explore planting days, and basically they maintain it, so it gets the children involved in the riparian planting and in that lovely area there. So it's looking really, really good, and that's something I think we're quite proud of, that area. Being a manufacturing site, we have a lot of we have to use resources like water for our processing, and so we're always looking to try and minimise about how much water we're taking onto site, and so we have a lot of programs in place to try and always minimise our water use, don't waste water, and that sort of thing's always tracked and monitored, and we have targets in place for that. Obviously not just to meet our consent, but we want to continually improve on that as well.
The site generates all its energy from natural gas, which comes offshore from here, sort of cogeneration plant. So we're not a site that uses we use large amounts of energy, but we generate most of that on site. So and that's a good win for us. We also, some of the things that are happening nationally, like there's a big tanker fleet that operate out of here, milk tanker fleet that operate out of here, so they're continually looking at efficiencies in terms of fuel use and fuel use initiatives and driver training and those sorts of things. So there's some big savings being made in those areas, and how we can most efficiently pick up the milk so that your footprint isn't so big.
Like a milk train?
We use a milk train a lot, so we bring milk through from the Manawatu and also from the Wairarapa by train, so that gets a lot of vehicle movements off the roads. So those sorts of initiatives are reasonably recent things that have been happening for this area. Fonterra, obviously, as a whole, we've got a thing called the Green Streams Accord, or Clean Streams Accord, sorry, which applies to all our supplier farms. And so that's a voluntary accord whereby farmers fence off their waterways. In this area, the Taranaki Regional Council are really proactive in terms of what they do in that regard, and that they visit farms and do farm plans for farmers, so that works out the area of fencing that's required, how many plant species and the type of plant species that are available, and then they fund part of that work as well. And if you travel around Taranaki, you will see lots of quite recent, certainly in the last 5 to 10 years, of fencing and planting. Now what that does is it does two things for waterways. The issues for waterways are sediment loading through silt and things like that getting into the waterways, and loadings from nutrients from land runoff. So riparian planting stops a lot of the runoff from hitting the waterways, stops sediment going in, and also lowers the temperature in the waterway. So native fish species like water to be relatively cool. So if the stream is planted in trees and it's shaded from the sun, then that lowers the water temperature. So your native fish species are going to thrive, as opposed to a stream that's wide and open with no plantings, and you get high, especially in the summer, with low river flows, you get high river temperatures, and that affects the migration of fish and their survival and also the food that they live on. So that's what riparian planting's about. And obviously Fonterra has, around the site here, we have a number of dairy farms that we own, and those farms, the waterways are all planted up with that in mind. All our sites are governed by consents which dictate how much water we can use, and whether that water comes from a local stream or river, or whether it comes from bores deep into the ground and aquifers. We're restricted as to how much we can take by our consent conditions, and those numbers are usually based on the allocation of water. So regional councils allocate water. They estimate how much water is in a particular aquifer or a stream, and then they allocate a certain percentage of that to be taken. So those allocations are pretty tight. They're not something that we can easily renegotiate. It's not like you can just turn the tap on at home and fill the sink up again. We can't. So there's only so much bath water to go around, if you like. So we have to be very careful about how we manage our water use.
When we make milk powder, we evaporate milk, and we get a lot of water come off that, and so that's that water we actually reuse, and we can use that again for, like Murray said, washing the plants and using for other uses in the plants, as opposed to just putting that down the drain. So we call that milk condensate water. So it's water that we've pulled out of the milk that we can reuse again, whereas you'd potentially be using fresh water from a stream or an aquifer. That is a kind of, I guess, another free water source to use. Yeah.
It's an industry that can go so far towards water reuse, we've talked about, and there's economic drivers for doing that, and we could get to a point where we could potentially use less water, depending on the economic drivers for that, or we would have to shut up shop. We simply need water to wash our product, to maintain product integrity, and to process milk. So to produce cheese and all the other things that we do. So water is absolutely critical to our operation, and that's why historically you see dairy factories next to streams, because they needed lots of water, and it's absolutely critical to us. And so managing that in a sustainable way is really important. for Fonterra as a whole, we're a big user of energy in terms of electricity and really any other form of energy. So for our sites to maintain their operation, we have to have a number of different sources of energy, and some of them renewable and some of them not, to maintain a continuity of supply. At 24-hour operations, they run all day and all night for many months of the year. So we certainly monitor our energy use. We're certainly looking at ways of reducing our energy use.
It's a huge employer, not just directly of the staff on site, but I mean all the contractors who work here, the flow-on effect to the local towns and the farmers. I mean, it's a rural province, lots of dairy farming, so definitely a lot to do, and we obviously would like to, lead by example. And when you're at that high profile in the community, you really have to be seen to be doing the right thing, definitely. Being a big manufacturing site, you can't not have an environmental footprint. I guess what we try and do is just try and make that footprint as small as possible. And as we said, that's got financial benefits for us and for farmers, as well as obviously the environmental benefit. If people have concerns, we'd rather discuss them and address them.
Historically, for many years, milk was just dumped into streams and along with dairy effluent in terms of farming practices and the manufacturing sites. I mean, that's all changed a lot. So where there are incidents of that, then certainly we want to know about them and do something about them. Fonterra have undertaken to, they've got a project whereby we're visiting every farm every year to look at their effluent compliance and basically scoring farmers against best practice and advising them of what they can do to improve their systems and provide them with free advice, good advice about how they can better use either what they've got on farm or what they need to put in place to improve their performance, because we do realise that it's an area that we do need to do some work in, and so it's about educating people as much as anything else.
And sometimes people might perceive things because they literally don't know any other, they don't know what's actually happening, and we've got to get our message out there as well and tell people what we are doing and the good things and the things we have improved. There's always room for improvement. Yeah.
It's a huge industry, and there's lots of people that input into how things are managed. I mean, there's quite a big drive for organic products, and certainly we do have organic suppliers looking at all sorts of different ways of sustainability in that regard. Using less fertilisers, different on-farm practices. The industry's moving more towards housing stock for certain periods of the year so that you don't get pasture damage and so that you can control the effluent, dairy effluent and things like that. So there's sort of changes happening. It's a pretty vibrant industry that changes all the time. Well, I mean, we're owned by the community, so every farmer down the road here has got a shareholding in our business, so it's their business really. So we're an integral part of the community, and there's lots of forums for them to feed back to us about how they see the business growing and developing, and what they like about it, and so on. So it's quite a unique business to be involved in, really, in that regard.
But with regards to the practical things, like you say, that clean stream record and that, the majority of them are taking it and running with it and doing it. Because, I mean, they like to see their farms look well as well. I mean, they don't want to have dirty, shitty streams flowing through their farms. Like I know my dad, he's been planting trees on our farm since I was just a kid. And now, just a couple of years ago, they've got the first tuies on the farm, and he just loves that, and it's so cool. And that's the sort of thing I think a lot of people do value. So I guess it's just great to be involved and have the opportunity to talk to you and kind of, like we say, trying to get Fonterra's stories out to the public, and this is a great way, one of the ways we can do it. I can see all the other things, we've got the website, we've got our community meetings, but this is just another media to use. It's great,